Hi everybody, so I'm just going to start this video about the use of AI in the classroom and ways that it could be used and should be used, okay? So right off the bat, there is, I want to say that, I'm definitely not an anti-AI professor. AI has its uses. It can be a very important tool, but the importance is being able to understand the information that it's giving you and being able to appraise that information to know if it is accurate or not, okay? And as a student, you're not going to be at that level just yet because AI does what's called hallucinations, where it makes up information. It will do things like completely make up sources. You can ask it, link me some sources about, World War II, and suddenly, it'll provide you a link that says is related to World War II, but then it brings you to a healthcare system website. It can be completely unrelated even though it says it is. It's because these AI tools are essentially black box software. What goes in and what come out, we don't know what happens in between. And even the AI system itself doesn't know what happens in between. So getting from point A to point B is not as simple as just following a roadmap, right? So it's important to understand the information before truly using the AI. Now, there are things that it can do that you don't necessarily need that understanding for. And a lot of those things are what I would consider more ethical uses of AI. Right? We don't want AI to be doing our work. We want to use AI as a thinking partner, essentially, if you're going to use it. And so, first thing I'm going to go through is some of the concerns and problems that exist with AI and how I know that you're using AI. So, something you see on the screen right now. When you copy from the web pages that contain AI output, those web pages are generated in what's called HTML code. HTML code with text, it attaches markers to it that help translate things like the formatting of the text, and it can show things like where it came from and keep the shape, depending on where you're copying and pasting it into and whatnot. So when you're copying from an AI system into something like Blackboard, Blackboard retains all of those markers and it contains so much data. And there's an example of this on the screen right now. Every AI system uses different markers, but this system, Gemini, for instance, the one created by Google, you will see on the screen right here, model answer summary, and then it provides me a identifier number. With that identifier number, if you know what you're doing, you can actually identify and have Gemini provide you the entire conversation that identifier came from. So, in this case, a student submitted an answer on a quiz question, and I have a Python script that scrapes all the HTML to look for these flags automatically every time I open a quiz. I see that comes from that. I can then go directly to that conversation. And let's say in this case, because this is true in this case, the student was logged into an account with an email address that was simply their first and last name. I can see that when I access the model summary using that. So I know that they're cheating and they get reported for academic misconduct for cheating, right? So keep that in mind going forward. These tags exist, and you should not be copying and pasting directly from an AI tool. If you're asking it a question, you should be doing ethical things, such as asking it to clarify stuff for you, maybe asking it to help you with wording, things like that, right? But even anything it outputs, you really want to use your own words, because when you're not using your own words, you're plagiarizing. AI systems are literally created, at least these versions, these large language models, they're created by feeding it a bunch of text, and then it uses a statistical calculation to basically determine what should be the next word that's used. Well, guess what happens? A lot of times, things that get output from here are very, very similar to things that have already been published before and have been processed by the model. So it gets flagged for plagiarism as well, okay? Next, there are also visible prompts that are hidden in assignments that you cannot see because they are HTML code. And when you copy and paste them into something like ChatGPT, ChatGPT can see that code. You can't see it, and it'll process it. So I've done things like embedded things to tell ChatGPT not to answer the question. And it will give you feedback saying, you shouldn't answer this question. I can't answer this question, yada, yada, yada. I've even done it on reflection questions. You might, try to copy something in and suddenly it's talking about being a race car driver. You never know what I've inserted in there. So you need to be very careful about what is being output because you just don't know. Next, now something that is very important for safety is something called a prompt injection attack. And this is actually, when used maliciously, is functionally able to be used as an exploit, okay? Now, these have all sorts of different forms, but as you can see on the screen here, when you upload an image to an AI model, it has to undergo scaling in order for it to be processed effectively and efficiently. As you can see, the image on the left, that's the normal image that a person can see. That same image, if you actually put it into an AI tool and ask it to identify the text that's in it, text that you cannot see as a human, the downscaling reveals the text, as you can see very faintly on the screen, okay? The technology side of this doesn't really matter all that much, but to put it bluntly, this can actually be used by people to steal your information, especially if you are using an AI that's has the ability to be a personal assistant, something like Gemini, as you'll see on this blog post here talking about this tool called Anamorpher. Now, luckily, this exploit was identified by people that are called white hat hackers, meaning what they do is they work with companies to identify exploits, and they actually get paid for finding these exploits and then getting them fixed. So they used Gemini, they did this, and they were actually able to, if you want to read through the details, you can just by looking up Anamorpher, but they were able to get Gemini through Google's Assistant to actually send all of their Google account information to a different email address. And that includes things like passwords. If you use Google Chrome and you save your credit card number, guess what? That's now saved in there. Your emails, any files, anything like that gets nice packaged up and sent over. Now, this exact exploit has been fixed for that sort of thing, but you can still do this downscaling, okay? So you need to be very careful about what you're uploading to AI because you never know what is in there that you cannot see, okay? So I talked about ethical uses of AI. So what is an example of that? My favorite example is using something like Grammarly. I don't use Grammarly personally because I find that it is it's actually not that good for scientific writing, and in my full-time job I do a lot of scientific writing. It's very poor for scientific writing, so I don't use it. But I do encourage students, especially if you find that you have issues with writing, it can be very good for helping with tone as well. So I do suggest using that. Just know that if you are using it, Grammarly, just like all these other AI systems, it embeds HTML code when you use it. So please cite that you're using it for that, okay? And the same goes for using any AI. If you're using AI to help clarify things, just give me a brief sentence at the end of your assignment saying, I used AI for helping organize this. I used AI for brainstorming. I used AI to help me structure this essay, things like that, right? Those are all ethical uses where you're producing the main part of the work and the AI is just helping you think through it. And so another great example that I like to give is using AI to help make study guides. And it can be very effective, right? We have all this reading in this course, and there's even some quiz questions here. What we're looking at here is the Word document version of the RISE lecture for week 2. Now, you can go on something like ChatGPT and you can find a GPT like this one called Study Notes. And what you can do, you'll add a file to it. So I will upload this week 2 file. Please generate a study guide with questions and an answer key at the end for all main concepts. And we let it run, right? It'll only take a minute or two, and see, it's already produced one. And what you can do is you could just leave this in here, or you can go through and download, you can just copy and paste it all out, download it into a Word document, do whatever you want to do with it, right? So this is listing off, it's going through all the main topics. It's summarizing things down relatively quickly in comparison. It's giving you review questions and then an answer key that is separate, right? You can, apparently this one even does printable flashcards or a quiz format. You can find these GPTs like this that do a lot of work to help you. And in fact, I'll show you one that I've recently discovered as well called Notebook LM. Notebook LM is a great tool. This is used by Google, and what Notebook LM does is it uses Google Gemini, and you can actually do something like this, where so I'm submitting a grant to the American College of Sports Medicine soon, and as part of that, I'm reviewing all of my documents to ensure continuity, meaning that I write these documents different times, different days, and what I'm doing with Notebook LM is I'm uploading all of these documents here, and I'm asking it to essentially, do the documents align for the reader, i.e., does the aims and strategy translate across all documents as applicable? And it will give me some feedback here. So I'm basically asking it, when I talk about the goal of my research, when I talk about what I'm doing with patients, things like that, does that align across all these different documents? And it's going to give me some feedback here. So in summary, document presents a coherent, meticulously planned narrative that backgrounds deficits, logically leads to a proposed intervention, rigorously testing, blah, 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 right? So this can be a great tool for something like that. And Notebook LM, as you get further into the class and have your summative assessments, you'll have multiple weeks of items together. And you can actually upload multiple weeks of notes into this and have it produce a study guide for all of those notes, okay? And that will be important for things like summative assessments and the final exam at the end that's comprehensive. So you can constantly continue to build out like a literal notebook. And you can even use your guided notes, which again are optional, but if you fill them in, this gives it more information, more data to build off of, and it will help you create your own study guides, okay? So ultimately, again, at the end of the day, AI should be a thinking partner. It shouldn't do the thinking for you. You should be doing a majority of the work, and you should be, progressing as a student and building your knowledge that way. So if you're using AI, disclose what you've done, such as what I show you here. I use Grammarly to check grammar. I asked ChatGPT to explain the differences in two similar concepts, something like pharmacodynamics versus pharmacokinetics. That's a very easy to misunderstand. Diverticulitis versus diverticulosis. They can be easy to mix up. And it's perfectly okay to use AI to help you work through those things, right? So again, just keep these ideas in mind as we go into class, and I hope this video was informative for you, and I hope maybe it helped you identify some new possible uses to help you learn better as well.